Hi, welcome to the channel. My name is Dylan. This is Andra, and this is going to be kind of like a open coaching session of sorts. Just kind of on the legal side. This is not here to fix anyone, anything. I'm a coach. I'm not a medical professional or any type of psychologist. Just want to get that out of the picture. I'm kind of nervous. This is my second time doing this, and we're kind of going along and seeing how this works. Um, Andra, do you have anything you want to say or anywhere you'd like to start?
No, I think that sums it up. I'm just excited to do the session with you, Dylan.
All right. So what questions or what thoughts are you bringing here today?
Well, a big part of my mental space goes to thinking about my health, or not necessarily worrying about it, but it's always in the background, and it's just kind of a routine. Um, yeah, a, a, it, I guess a routine way that I preoccupy myself
Mhm.
daily. So it just feels natural that we talk about it.
Okay. So do you feel like do you think about it as much as you think you should think about it?
That's a good question. I feel like it's always in the background. So my subconscious mind is always on it,
Mhm.
but consciously, I feel like I'm not thinking about it enough. And part of it is because I have complex health. So I have a few medical conditions, and it can get really complex. I guess that's why it's called complex health, really fast. So there is a lot of thinking and a lot of managing of each of these conditions together and separately. And so I feel like I never, even though I think about it all the time, I feel like I never get to cover it
Hmm.
completely.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'm always behind.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is you have kind of the background process thinking about it, and you have the foreground process thinking about it. Do you how do the two interact? Does the background process help the foreground process? Does the background process help remind you to think about it in kind of your foreground process?
It is like an anchor. Yeah.
Hmm.
It reminds me to attend appointments or make appointments, follow up with specialists and doctors, and I do that pretty much every day. And when my background process doesn't get paid attention to, I start feeling um, a bit more anxious about it. But the anxiety is a bit like I am pushing myself aside, or I'm leaving myself behind in a way,
Hmm.
because I should prioritize this, right? So there's this internal monologue of um, the the conversation back and forth between foreground and background, where the background is always pushing, and the foreground is like trying to keep up and failing often. And then the emotional stuff that comes with it.
Hmm. So I guess the question that comes up is in your ideal world, how would you be thinking about it more consciously?
Hmm. I would treat it like a product. In my ideal
Mhm.
world, my health would be a product, and I would be using a central product management software to organize everything, to get it all online. And then I would, you know, try to coordinate with the different people that I come into contact with in real time. And I would feel like that would be bringing it, making it more real. Sorry, is that, I'm not sure if I'm answering the question.
Yeah. That's a great answer. So is that something that's realistic? Is that something that would be possible for you to do? How much work would that be to do compared to how much you'd actually get out of doing that?
Yeah, I think today that vision can become reality because there are certain ways, like technological ways in which we can keep track of our health. For instance, integrated health platforms that bring everything together for patients, to look at, high level, and also to dive into the granularity of tests and scheduling, that kind of stuff. So I think now more than ever that vision can come true. But I remember being, 12 and trying to keep up with it in my diaries and my journals and whatever, calendars, paper calendars. So yeah, that wouldn't work for more than a day or two, I think, or maybe like a week, but now yeah, I feel a little more hopeful that I'll be able to manage my health that way as if it were a product. But maybe not now. Hopefully in a few years I'll be able to do that. But then yeah, but then the question is bringing my entire medical history online and seeing that I've always had health issues. It would go back more than 30 years, right? So yeah, gathering the data would be difficult for me. So yeah, I'm not sure if, I think moving forward I could start fresh, but looking into my history, I'm not sure how accurate an idea I would have about yeah, about where I'm at.
How important do you think it would be to have your entire history versus just a more recent history?
It would be important for like data collection to help me strategize, maybe. The thing is, my medical conditions, some of them are predictable and linear. They evolve in a linear fashion, and some of them are completely unpredictable. So I would think, yeah, for the stuff that evolves in a linear fashion, then I can look back and see, yeah, where I was at 5 years ago, and then see what I've been doing in these 5 years, relative to my lifestyle and diet and yeah, just everything, and then be able to predict the next 5 years, right? So it would help from that point of view, but when there is a lot of uncertainty, probably wouldn't help to know. I mean, yeah, it would help to clarify things, but it wouldn't give me a solid ground to stand on, because there is no solid ground to begin with. Yeah, and so would it be worth it for me to even put that together? I mean, I think so. Yeah. Even if it would give me like a false sense of security, I think that would still be something.
I'm also hearing you talk about 5 years versus 30 years.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was hearing myself saying it and asking myself unconsciously about why I use 5, right, as a so I'm glad that you asked the question. I think that has something to do with even as I was saying it, I realized I was thinking to myself that 5 years, maybe that's too long. But when I heard your question, I realized actually it sounds like it's little. Like I think in
Mm-hmm.
small increments, when compared to maybe how other people think. Yeah, but to myself, 5 years is a very, very long time. 5 years is like decades for me in a way.
Because there's a lot of history in those 5 years.
Oh my gosh, so much happens every day.
Yeah.
In 5
Okay.
years,
Yeah.
I think in 5 years I'd probably start. I probably lived twice, 2 lifetimes.
Hmm. So also another thing I'm hearing is that this would kind of be your ideal over maybe the next, like maybe in 2 years, 3 years, to kind of put something like this together. I'm wondering, is there anything you think could be done today or in the shorter term?
In the shorter term, if I can get my care team on a schedule, and if I can get everyone together, and if I can screen every part that I need to look at by doing tests, and yeah, usually by doing tests and getting involved in clinical trials, and getting that result, that would put me on the trajectory to be able to then organize it, because right now there's a lot of unknowns.
Okay. So do you have the power to kind of control those dynamics? Do you have the power to be able to control your care team or to kind of like wrangle all this stuff together?
I have as much power as I have energy to put into it. So
Okay.
yeah, on some days I just need to take the day off, go for a walk, hang out with my friends and family. On other days I need to work all the time. And yeah, dealing with medical stuff every single day can get, it is slightly unrealistic. I mean, I've been doing it successfully for as long as I committed to doing it, but on the days that I am not on the phone with people and trying to push them to get me in faster or do this test or do that test, so that I have to actively advocate for myself, and that takes effort. Yeah, and so I only have as much power as I have energy to dedicate to this on any given day.
Okay. So it sounds like energy is one of the big kind of limiting factors that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there isn't much energy to go around often.
Yeah. Well, thank you for spending some of your energy talking here today. It's appreciated.
Yeah, I think.
Do you feel like you're using the energy that you have wisely? Do you feel like you're using it in the best way that you can?
I do. Yeah, and I say that while feeling, while knowing that when I am avoiding doing something that is important to me, I also need to do that. Like that time, that time spent binging, a show on Netflix, or tending to my plants, or yeah, just the time I'm spending in not in productive ways is not time that is unwisely spent. So I try to show up for whatever it is that I'm doing and take ownership of it. Like, yeah, if I want to watch the Squid Games for 10 hours this day, you know, it's not necessarily because I want to or because it's what is good for me, but it's just where I'm at. And I think it's important to recognize that something in my body is telling me that that's fine. I don't think this is the healthiest. It's not a question of always doing the healthy thing. It's just, is it wise? Yeah, I think it's wise because it's just what it is.
Can you talk a little bit more about that in terms of, so if you end up watching, say, Squid Games for 10 hours in a day, and are you saying that that's because you are feeling like avoiding other stuff?
Yeah, usually it's a combination of things, a very complex thing that happens. So I would think that it has something to do with me avoiding chores because I need to, whenever I need to do something like it's a chore, I tend to want to avoid it because it comes in really harsh for me. Like I feel contained and forced by the situation or forced into the situation. And I already experienced so much. I'm already limited in so many ways by my health and my circumstances that anything that really kind of is constricting, I kind of want to not do it or be there. Right, so then I gravitate towards things that are softer and more open and more relaxing to my nervous system. But then at the same time, it doesn't work. It doesn't entirely work that way because as I am avoiding something, I also get more and more anxious about it, about not doing it. Right, so it's a double-edged sword, and even though I say, oh, if I want to watch Netflix for Squid Games for 10 hours a day, I know that I'm not gonna at the same time do that. Like at a certain point, I will feel it to see when enough is enough, and then I'll try to. So I'm processing in the background. I'm witnessing what is happening and how long I spent doing it and how long I avoid doing the other things that need to be done. So it allows me to process my situation because I'm not actively thinking about anything. Yeah, so I'm not letting myself, like, I like to tell to myself that maybe it is delusional, that I'm still present even when I'm checked out.
So
And that's
you're
because
being mindful. What I'm hearing from you is you're being mindful about being checked out.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's delusional to feel that way, but it feels like that.
And I don't know. In my mind, like the kind of the first step towards making any change is just kind of being aware of the patterns that are happening. So if I'm kind of avoiding life, if I'm playing video games or something, then I can go into a mode where I just completely lose myself into the game, or I can kind of step back a little bit and try to watch myself being lost into the game. Because if I'm not completely lost, there's more room to kind of like make change.
Yeah, I don't get, definitely when I watch Netflix, for instance, or do anything that doesn't require actively thinking or working on something or being productive. I guess whenever I'm spending time unproductively, I am also witnessing myself doing it and processing what is actually happening in the background. But activities where I lose myself would be if I do design work, or if I'm a designer, or if it used to be painting in the past. So that is really losing myself, and I'm not so much watching or witnessing myself falling into it. And I think that's more that's more me showing up for that and being totally in it. I'm not really avoiding anything.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like this is a goal you're trying to accomplish, so like, you know, give it your all, and eventually it'll be finished.
Yeah, but I think it is a waste of time when I don't do what is important, when I avoid harassing my family doctor, for instance, or my specialists about various tests, or getting me in faster, or treatment plan and so on. Because that interaction is anxiety inducing, and not very it's not easy to try to convince these authority figures to listen to you sometimes. Because oftentimes you're, as a patient, you're not paid attention as much as you would need it. So I am then, I have to work up the courage to do it. And I work up the courage sometimes by doing things that have nothing to do with that, but also working through the fear, I guess, would be one way.
So if I'm understanding what you just, if I'm understanding what you, okay. If I'm understanding what you just said right there, it's that one of the methods, one of the tools you use to kind of get yourself working on your goals again is to maybe work on something else, kind of a little bit tangential, just so you can kind of get moving of sorts to kind of get back towards your actual goal.
Yeah, I do that. But lately I've been turning that attention in a bit more. So for instance, I feel like I need to look into this difficult task, right? And the task is difficult because it's unknown. I discover it, I know how to do it, I know what it entails, and so on, right? And I know how long it's going to take me. So whenever I feel that pressure from the unknown or diving into it, now I develop strategies where I'll just go have a shower, and I'll go for a walk. But I feel like having a shower really always gives me, having a shower, or like self-care stuff like doing my hair, or even like wearing a different outfit, just changing my the way I feel, and also the way I look, and also the way I feel inside too. I feel like that gives me more sustainable, like it's a source of power that's a bit more sustainable. But then I can lean into things like, in order to prolong this experience, I might go and buy chocolate and then eat the whole thing, and then get into a sugar coma, and then I definitely won't be able to do anything. So I can expand on that a little too much. And so timing, I feel like timing and using that time wisely, like you said, I'm still figuring out how many minutes to spend on each task, and then between, or like task or activity and between them, to be able to then like circle back to what it is that I want to be working on. Because if I expand on that too much, then I'll just fall off the radar.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess what the first thought that kind of comes to my head about this is, I mean, there's definitely, probably the easiest way for me to relate to this is kind of just like chores that I hate doing. There's some chores that I absolutely like can't stand. And my strategy for this is kind of like, well, I'm avoiding, I'm watching TV or I'm playing video games. Video games are usually my way of avoiding. And it's my goal is to kind of to get myself to go to those chores. Like maybe it's just like doing dishes or something. It's like, okay, so what I'm going to do, my goal right now is to get up and just like go to the sink and to stand in front of the sink for a minute, and then I can go back to the video game if I want. And the goal in my mind is just to kind of break the habit for just a moment so that I get out of like the cycle I'm in. Because if I'm in the game, it's really easy to just like keep going and like go to the next level or go to find a new quest or like something else. And if I can get myself out of it for a minute and kind of get myself to do a really, really short task that gets me close to what I want to do. So I kind of like feel the anxiety around that thing just a little bit and then back off, then it's easier to kind of like get better at doing that thing. And then it's easier to go from doing that into actually starting to get that task done.
Yeah, so that's a little bit like what I use to go outside sometimes. Like I feel like over the past year, I've had difficulty leaving the house, so getting stuck in the house. And the way that I've tried to get out more is either to make plans with people, like a lot, like it kind of became a new concept again this year, making plans with people. But
Yeah.
just like trying to go for a walk and starting with going to the grocery store. And then maybe I can go a block further,
Yeah.
you know, and then come back. So yeah, I guess it would be similar where I would increase my tolerance. But that first step, though, it's difficult to get unstuck. That first step, when you're in the flow.
It is. It's
I'll
hard.
do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it, and then like 2 hours later, you're still watching Squid Games. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but
So,
anyway, I feel like that loops back to body pain and not. I feel trapped in my body sometimes because I have chronic pain. And so doing chores that equal, you know, things that I have to do that constrict me become even more difficult because it's painful to move. And I know that if I'll do that activity, my body will hurt even more for like half a day kind of thing. And so then, I feel suffocated sometimes about all of these restrictions.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I could imagine it could be really suffocating when it just kind of I mean, just avoidance by itself, when you're feeling avoidant, it can be kind of hard to kind of escape that. But when there's also like a pain cost for escaping the avoidance, it can like really, I could understand how it really could just like push you back towards that avoidant behavior. Like trying to imagine this in some way. I'm imagining this kind of like we're in the Arctic Circle and it's like winter time and we're inside like a warm house and there's no real goal inside the house because all the real work has to be done out there. Like it can be really hard just leaving the house because then everything's painful, everything, just the wind hitting your face and everything's freezing and it just pushes you back towards that avoidance. And like avoiding by watching TV or something else can be really challenging even when there isn't this secondary like pressure.
Yeah, because it all feeds into it. It's all interconnected. And it's all neurological, I guess, too, because the pain can become an excuse for more avoidance to happen. And that pain if it brings up painful emotional episodes in the past, because it'll kind of like, if I get into like an arc of fear or anxiety, then I can get flashbacks of other painful episodes, you know, and that like physical pain, and then those can bring up episodes of emotional pain, and then before you know it, it's like you know, I am being presented with a menu of, you know, things that are either happening right now or have happened, and then of course there's the what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Like I'm
Like
imagining like kind of, I want to go for a walk outside, and I go for a walk out. I put my shoes on, I go outdoors, and my neighbor's there, and my neighbor starts like kind of bugging me about the fence that's falling over. And I start walking a little bit more, and like my brother comes over and he starts kind of like telling me about this. And then all of a sudden I have like 50 people kind of like all surrounding me, all shouting at me. And it's kind of like, it's either I'm feeling the anxiety from that, or I'm listening to each one of these voices, or any one of these voices that is basically telling me everything is wrong. And like, well, I'm just gonna run back inside right now. It's hard not to. It's hard to be with so many voices. Is that kind of fit the model that you're thinking about a bit?
it's yeah, it's a cute analogy that of all of these, you're just kind of trying to go about life and have a good time, but all of these aspects of that are caused by circumstance are, you know, very much alive and interacting with you, and your, you know, you whether you want to or not, they are part of your reality, and kind of have to figure out how to get along.
Yeah.
And sometimes the goal for me is in when I avoid when I spend time avoiding important yet difficult things, the goal is to create some more understanding in my space between myself and everything else that's trying to get my attention.
So going back to that analogy, kind of going for a walk and having a better understanding between you and all the people trying to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm just kind of being like, okay, yeah, I hear you. All right, can change it right now. But just gonna this is happening, so yeah. There's nothing, just kind of staying with it and knowing that it'll work itself out.
And how is that? How is it when you kind of go out there and say that to yourself, or try to hold on to that understanding?
I have a very deep understanding that everything works itself out as it is best for me, even if I don't attend to an urgent situation right away, or I don't rise up to expectations in any given situation, mine or other people's, or, you know, just situation. That that's just how life goes. I need to be flexible and accept that things are not gonna go according to my ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Like things are not going to show me in the best light always, or ever sometimes, and that I won't live up to my potential because the power of circumstance is such, and I don't control everything that happens, so oftentimes I don't get to express myself. I only get to 20% of the way, or 40%, and just being okay with that, because that's just my reality. It's my journey, and I don't have I don't wish that it was different, but that doesn't make it easy. It makes it such that I'm able to move through it, but I am fully aware that sometimes I feel like it's more challenging than anybody wants to know even, or can understand. So as you can imagine, that can bring up feelings of isolation.
Yeah.
Always being, or being misunderstood as well, but not necessarily misunderstood, because I believe that, people don't have the ability to understand something unless they've been through a similar situation.
So maybe not understood.
Not understood is more accurate.
Okay. Yeah. You still there? I think we lost the recording there, or lost the connection there for a minute. I'm gonna pause. Hey, had a bad connection there for a minute.
No worries. My fault. It was my fault. That's one thing about another thing about using time wisely is that I feel like I'm always charging my phone, and it's always running out of battery. So it's just kind of a nice metaphor in a way. It reminds me that everything is always running out of energy, including me.
How do you feel about that?
It's the awareness of everything dying as it is alive. I feel like death is very present in my life. I think about it every day. It's always with me.
Do you feel comfortable with that?
It's a little bit like having a best friend who is very attentive and always trying to get at you.
Do you remember where? Yeah.
Yes, I do. You made a distinction between feeling misunderstood and feeling not understood. Yeah, and so I would say that I feel not understood if I try to explain my life.
Yeah. Okay. What is that like for you when you feel not understood?
It's a little bit like, it doesn't happen very often, but it stops me from answering questions that other people don't have difficulty answering, such as, how is your day? How are you feeling? What's been going on with you? Or just give a brief intro in a meeting. So I don't really, or I'll say something that feels true to me, but often I just won't say anything revealing, or like I won't talk about what's actually on my mind or what's happening. Okay. So it's a block.
what is your experience of that? Like, how do you feel about that? Is it disconnecting?
It feels like I can see it coming, that I better not talk about what's going on because it's inappropriate. It feels like it's inappropriate to various situations. And you know, even when people are, I think most people in my life are extremely empathetic and understanding and intelligent, and you know, they have plenty of their own challenges as well. Just oh goodness, my God. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all part of the process. This is, you know, just an experiment.
Sorry about that. I don't know how to prop my phone. Okay. I think it's gonna stay put now. So even though most people are, actually everyone is amazing, at some point I will have to kind of choose what I say, what I disclose, and then what I don't. And that's not something that I naturally do or want to do. It's just something that I learned that at a certain point it's like overwhelm. You know, I don't want to, in a way, people, if they know the reality of my daily life, it goes like, oh, that's amazing how, you know, in a way, like, how can you juggle all this stuff, and how are you even like, because I appear like everyone else, and that I can relate to. I feel like I can relate to a lot of people, and I'm relatable as well. But there are these aspects of my lived experience that are they're just not relatable at all. So just to give you some context, I have a few very rare diseases. Well, just one of them is, two of them are very rare. And people don't know, we don't know very much about them. We don't know how they, you know, how they come to be, and there's no treatment, and there's a very small patient population in the world, you know. People are spread all over the world, and it's kind of like, when I was growing up, for instance, as a kid, I was the only person in my country who had it. And this, you know, this is like a classical story. So if I start talking about the different aspects of my health from that perspective, it's really amorphous and people can't relate, right? So then that is the high level understanding, but the everyday experience is that everyday things happen relative to that, but then life happens at the same time. So, you know, I may be on my way to get surgery, and I'm in the cab, and then in order to get time off from work, I had to, you know, I had to work overtime over the weekend or work all night long, right, to be somewhere with the work where I could take time off to go get surgery. But then in the cab, the cab driver gets into an accident, and then there's that as well. And then I get to the doctor's office, and then there is an awkward interaction with the doctor because they're telling me that, you know, maybe they're not the doctor for me because I advocate for myself, and like I'm not controlling the process, and so there's that to deal with. and then I
Mhm.
finally have a surgery, and then I come back and I have to like, so that's just that journey is overwhelming, I think,
Mhm.
because there's just so much happening in a short period of time. But then
Mhm.
that can be the reality of my lived experience, like for years or months, or it depends. I guess sometimes I get a break
Mm.
for like a couple of weeks or something. But
Mhm.
what I'm saying is that I have this very complex health, and stuff always happens there. It's a huge part of my life. But then I also have everything else happens and it's not uneventful.
Mhm.
So it's just, I feel like it's too much or inappropriate for me to tell people who I'm not super close with, and even the people who I'm very close with, what actually happens every day. So I
Mhm.
try to keep it like, I always check how deep I can go.
Mhm. Yeah.
So there's a
That makes sense.
management of that in terms of communication, of
Yeah.
how I communicate with people. And it's
Yeah.
not natural for me. It's just something that
Mhm.
I noticed that I have to do.
Mhm. And what is your experience of doing that? Is it harder to be present when you're doing that? When you're kind of like managing how open you can be with any given person?
Uh, I'm always wondering about how open or transparent I can be.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that that is the leading emotion or thought
Yeah.
pattern, or always wondering, like, am I, and sometimes I feel like I go too far, and so I've learned to read also, maybe reactions, or
Mm-hmm.
just to see how far I can push it, because it is a very intimate thing as well. At the same time, like health,
Mm-hmm.
talking about health is difficult for people.
Yeah.
And I tend to be desensitized as well. So I'm very
Mm-hmm.
open, and there isn't shame for me.
Yeah.
Or I don't feel uncomfortable. But so that used to get me, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, not get me in trouble, but it used to maybe cause me to wonder if I went too far, if that was inappropriate, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then that would cause me to pull back and
Mm-hmm.
withdraw
Okay.
and feel
Yeah.
isolated.
Yeah.
But now I'm 33, and I've processed a lot of this on my own, and how
Mm-hmm.
I feel. So now I realize now that if someone is overwhelmed by something, by my me telling them how my life is, it doesn't have anything to do with me.
Yeah.
That it just the matter of it's just the subject matter that is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
there
That
are
makes
ways
sense.
to go about it, but it's management, like, continuously.
Yeah. It's an extra chore you have.
And sometimes I get frustrated, and I'm like, oh, why is everyone so stressed out about this, what I think is like a little thing, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I sometimes I get frustrated, and even now, and I will call a friend and uh talk that way. But I also realize, oh, it's just I don't take it seriously. But
Mm.
I think it used to affect me more than it does now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we're kind of coming up on an hour. We don't need to stop right at an hour. I'm wondering, is there anything else specifically that you'd like to talk about?
No, this has been great. Since I talked about my my health, I'd like to also tell people what it is that I have, and also for the sake of raising awareness, if anyone's interested, where this disease, like the International Day of it, is coming up on November 1st, and that's hormonal rare disease called acromegaly. It has genetic components as well, so it's quite an interesting condition. And then I also had something called gigantism when I was growing up as a child.
Mhm.
It's in remission now, I think, or
Mm,
well, the jury's out.
mm,
And I also have this syndrome called McCune-Albright syndrome,
mhm,
and a bone disease called fibrous dysplasia.
mm,
And I have something else called prolactinoma.
mhm.
I think maybe I'll just talk about scoliosis, which is one of the reasons why I get a lot of body pain.
Mm,
Um, and then yeah, and then I have other like smaller comorbid diseases that are associated with each of these,
mhm,
that are more common. Yeah,
mhm.
but
Okay.
I wanted
Yeah.
to mention the rare ones because they don't get as much attention as everything else.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. And when this does get posted onto YouTube, we're going to be able to put some links into it with more information that people can follow to learn more about this.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and your
Yeah.
insight.
I really appreciate your time and insights too. And I think we talked about this. We're going to have to do more of these. And yeah, thank you so much for being here and being vulnerable.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you. Appreciate
Cool.
it. All right. Happy Friday.
Happy
Bye.
Friday. Bye.